Hey squad, Jakus here, and I'm a Sonic fan. Yeah, save your pitchforks. I'm trying to reignite my love for this franchise, and I'm going back through all the classics to do that. Next stop? Oh. Oh, please no. No, not Sonic CD. Sonic CD sure is a game. It's difficult to put into words how I feel about this game. Everything about it is such a strange departure from the rest of the classic Sonic games. It's not as easy to figure out how I feel about this compared to Sonic 1, 2, 3 or Knuckles. But I'll try anyway, because I hate myself. Alright, time for some history. Sega wants to make a new game for their upcoming Sega CD. They decide that Sonic is a safe bet. One development cycle later, and boom, Sonic CD bursts onto the scene, and my nightmares were never the same again. Sonic CD is an interesting case. It uses Sonic 1's sprites, despite releasing after Sonic 2. It has a different soundtrack, depending on if you're in the US or in Japan. The Japanese and European soundtrack, absolutely outstanding, banger after banger. The American soundtrack? The stuff of nightmares. Apparently the soundtrack was split in two because Sega of America wanted more American sounding music. In my opinion, while a lot of the music is solid, the Japanese soundtrack is definitely the better option. Diving into the game, we're presented with an animated video. This is where Toei Sonic came from, and it's a charming opening. This sets out a bit of the story. Robotnik is up to no good, chaining a whole planet to the ground. Sonic must stop him, same old, same old. However, later on we're introduced to Metal Sonic, Sonic's rival of sorts, and Amy, a damsel in distress whom Sonic has to save. Sonic CD does change up the damsel in distress dynamic when compared to, say, Mario. While Mario saves the princess for a kiss on the nose or a cake, Sonic doesn't care for Amy romantically. Sonic has no motivation to save her beyond just being a good person, which is true to his character. Metal Sonic is a notable foe. Sonic has faced metallic versions of himself before, such as Silver Sonic in Sonic 2, and will again, such as Metallic Sonic in Sonic and Knuckles. Apparently Sega wasn't brimming with creative minds in the early 90s. Metal Sonic is unique in that he is Sonic's first real rival beyond Robotnik. We would later see this with Shadow, but in 1993 a robot that could keep up with and even outmatch Sonic's speed would be a big deal. The story elements in CD are really a first for the series. Sonic 3 and Knuckles didn't release until 1994, so CD had a year head start on implementing a big story into a Sonic game, beyond Robotnik kidnapping animals and taking over islands. It makes for nice motivation to play. Now, let's get into the levels. Palmtree Panic is, to the surprise of none, this game's equivalent to Green Hill and Emerald Hill. It is the first level in a 2D Sonic game after all. It's a cool level, with many interesting visual set pieces. The level even begins with a half pipe which makes Sonic look 3D, showing off the power of the Sega CD. It's pretty cool. This level, and the rest of the game to various extents, goes way too over the top with the springs, to the point of being genuinely annoying. Collision Chaos is much the same. Way too many springs and bumpers. Spring Yard and Casino Night both used these features well to construct fun set pieces, but in CD, it often feels unnecessary. There are pinballs and bumpers everywhere, and it becomes overwhelming in the boss fight. With Sonic, there is good level design for these stages, and there is bad level design for these stages. You can imagine which Sonic CD fits into. Sonic CD does not utilize springs and bumpers well, especially when compared to Sonic 2. In Sonic 2, every spring, every bumper, every half pipe, they all had a purpose to provide fun set pieces and to ultimately push Sonic forward. Here, they feel like a Super Mario Maker level from 2015, just randomly sprinkled throughout the stage. Tidal Tempest is this strange mix between Labyrinth Zone and Hydro City Zone. It's not as tedious as Labyrinth, but it is far from the greatness of Hydro City. It's weird, despite releasing before Sonic 3, Tidal Tempest and Hydro City feature many similar set pieces and level design elements, such as switches that activate rising bubbles. Sonic 3 had likely begun development while Sonic CD was being worked on, so it's not impossible that the two games took influence from each other at times, and I think this zone is a good example of this. The main difference of course being that Sonic 3 is actually good. The problem with Tidal Tempest is that it's really boring. Labyrinth Zone is challenging, Hydro City Zone is fun. Tidal Tempest It's here. It just doesn't have a lot going for it compared to other water stages in the classic games. But it's still better than Labyrinth. While not very interesting, it is a fun level, and it is devoid of the obnoxious hazards that made Labyrinth Zone such a nightmare, and it doesn't feature painfully long water sections, which is always a bonus. Quartz Quadrant Zone exists? It is a nice level. It's almost linear, but keeps the different paths, which is a staple of classic Sonic at this point. There are conveyor belts that push and pull Sonic around, which are fun to mess with, and there are plenty of secrets to find. Despite this, Quartz Quadrant remains fairly forgettable. A lot of the levels in this game do, in fact. When I think of Sonic CD, I think of Palmtree Panic, Stardust Speedway, and maybe even Metallic Madness. Even then, the last one is only because of Sonic Mania. Quartz Quadrant, it's a good level, but it's just not memorable enough. What's up with the names of these zones? Instead of fun or location-based zone names like Green Hill Zone or Angel Island Zone, we get Wacky Workbench, Metallic Madness. What's next? Tilted Towers? Anyway, Wacky Workbench is a very unique stage, based less on speed and more on platforming. It's a welcome change, but I'm very conflicted on how I feel about this level. It is unique, but the platforming element can work against it at times. The problem is that if you mess up the platforming, you'll get sent flying into the sky and electrocuted. It's fun to bounce, not so fun to get shocked and lose all your rings or die. If you try and run through the level, like you would any other stage, you will most likely get punished for it. Stardust Speedway is definitely one of the most memorable stages, but it still has one major flaw. Despite being designed to let you go fast, it also likes to stop you with spike traps and sudden walls. However, if you practice the stage and get to know it, Stardust Speedway can be a blast to run through at a wonderful speed. Now, where this level truly shines is the fight against Metal Sonic. This is a high-speed, high-action race to the finish, with Robotnik firing a massive laser behind and Metal Sonic easily matching your speed. I really love this boss. It's very unique and it's a lot of fun. Metallic Madness is similar to Scrap Brain Zone and Metropolis Zone, but its lows aren't quite as low. It's even fun at times. Won't catch Metropolis doing that. There are some challenging parts, of course, but overall, it's not too bad of a final zone. The final boss, however, kinda underwhelming. After the grandiose fight against the Death Egg robot in Sonic 2, and with the time travel plot of Sonic CD, I'd have thought that there would be an intense, high-stakes battle. But there isn't. As it is, it's fine, I guess. Serviceable. No, you didn't mishear me when I said time travel. In Sonic CD, every zone has a present, past, bad future, and good future variant. These generally change up the color palette, decorations, music, and enemy placements, and they're really cool. The idea of a zone that changes depending on the time period or the player's actions is really cool. And side note, it's something that was originally planned for Sonic 2 instead. And it's an idea that I would love to see return in a future game. Now the special stages? I'm not a fan. Here, they are called Special Zones, and you are tasked with destroying 6 UFOs in a short time. It's a 3D environment like Sonic 2 and Sonic 3, which is pretty cool in truth. It doesn't play badly or anything, it's just not very interesting. Beating a special zone rewards the player with a time stone. Collect all 7 time stones across the zones to unlock the good futures of every zone. While there's certainly no Supersonic, the good future variants are really nice and upbeat, and a good reward for collecting the time stones, as you can see your good effect on the world. As is the case with Sonic 1 and Sonic 2, the best way to play Sonic CD is the mobile port and Sonic Origins. It's got widescreen, it's got Tails, it's got both soundtracks, it's got achievements, it's got time attack mode, it's still mediocre, but this is the best Sonic CD is gonna get, so there you go, take it or leave it. Sonic CD is an interesting case. It's got its highs and lows, more lows than highs, but it's such a strange entry when compared to Sonic 1, 2, 3 and Knuckles. Still, it could be worse. Sonic Pocket Adventure does exist. Play Sonic 2 instead though. That game is much better.